The Twisted Alliance, the horror of Leonard Lake and Charles Ean. In the shadowed foothills of California's Sierra Nevada mountains during the mid-1980s, two men forged a bond that would unleash one of the most depraved killing sprees in American history. Leonard Lake and Charles Ean weren't just murderers, they were architects of a nightmarish fantasy, building a remote compound where they abducted, tortured, and slaughtered entire families in pursuit of twisted dominance and survivalist delusions. Their crimes, often captured on video for their own sick amusement, claimed at least 11 lives, though authorities suspect as many as 25. This is their story, a chilling tale of broken minds, shattered families, and a bunker of horrors that still haunts the annals of true crime. Leonard Thomas Lake was born on October 29, 1945, in San Francisco into a family that fractured early. His parents divorced when he was 6, leaving him and his siblings to be raised by their maternal grandmother. From childhood, Lake showed disturbing signs, an obsession with pornography that led him to secretly photograph his sisters nude, with his grandmother's encouragement, and a cruel streak where he'd dissolve mice in chemicals just to watch them die. As a teen, he became fascinated with John Fowles' novel, The Collector, which fueled his fantasies of holding women captive. After attending Balboa High School, he enlisted in the U.S. Marine Corps in 1964 at age 19, serving as a radar electronics technician in Vietnam. But war amplified his instabilities. He suffered a delusional breakdown, was diagnosed with schizoid personality disorder, and was medically discharged in 1971. Back home, Lake drifted into San Francisco's hippie community, but his mind fixated on darker obsessions, a paranoia about nuclear apocalypse that led him to stockpile guns and dream of enslaving women in a post-doomsday world. He married twice, briefly in 1969 to a woman who fled after discovering his bondage pornography, and then in 1981 to Carolyn Cricket Balaz, a teacher's aide who briefly indulged his amateur S&M films before their relationship soured and they divorced, though they remained on speaking terms. Lake was a survivalist at heart, always prepping for the end times, but his preparations masked a deeper sadism. For 8 years he lived on a 5,600-acre ranch near Calpella, where he began digging a bunker until the owner stopped him, a lesser-known precursor to his later horrors. Across the Pacific, Charles Ean was born on December 24, 1960 in Hong Kong. As the only son in an affluent but abusive family, his father, a strict executive, beat him with a cane for poor grades and misbehavior, fueling Ean's lifelong rage and compulsion for theft. As a boy, Ean idolized Bruce Lee and martial arts, but channeled his energy into destruction, setting fires, attacking classmates, and stealing. Expelled from multiple schools, including a British boarding school at 15 for shoplifting. He fled to the U.S. in 1978 on a student visa. He briefly enrolled at the College of Notre Dame in Belmont before dropping out after one semester. A hit-and-run conviction followed, but instead of facing it, he used false documents to enlist in the Marines in 1979, only to be arrested in 1980 for stealing $11,000 in automatic weapons from a base armory. He escaped custody, but his path crossed Lake's around 1981, possibly through a survivalist magazine ad Lake placed while managing a motel in Philo. Ean moved in with Lake and Balaz, forming an unholy alliance bonded by shared fantasies of control and violence. Witnesses described Lake as domineering, with Ean viewing him as a brotherly, fatherly figure. Their partnership ignited in 1982 when both were arrested for illegal firearms during a raid on their Ukiah mobile home. Lake jumped bail and vanished to a remote 2.5-acre property in Wilseyville, Calaveras County, owned by Balaz. Ean returned to military custody, pleaded guilty, and served 18 months in Leavenworth before rejoining Lake in 1984. There they transformed the cabin into a killing ground. Hidden next to the structure, Lake built a concrete bunker with 2 secret rooms, a torture chamber stocked with tools, restraints and a sign reading the Miranda, and a soundproof cell with a bed, bucket toilet, and rules for captives. This was Operation Miranda, Lake's grand illusion inspired by The Collector, where he'd abduct and enslave women as sex slaves in a post-apocalyptic world. Men and children were disposable obstacles. Women were playthings to be broken before death. Lake's killing started solo. In May 1983, he murdered his friend and former best man at his wedding, Charles Donald Gunner, 34, likely luring him to the property, shooting or strangling him, and dismembering the body. This act wasn't just murder, it was identity theft. Lake used Gunner's van ID and cashed his welfare checks for months. Gunner's remains weren't found until 1992 when a new property owner dug for a garage foundation. They were charred and fragmented with bullets from 2 guns, hinting at Lake's early experimentation with body disposal using fire and possibly multiple weapons. Some speculate jealousy or a fallout over money sparked it, but Lake's diary later revealed it as a thrill kill to test his resolve. Even earlier, Lake likely killed his mentally disabled brother, Donald, 31, in late 1982 or 1983, stealing his disability checks, too. With Ian's arrival, the duo's reign escalated. They targeted acquaintances, strangers, and families through ads for jobs, housing, or sales, luring them to the isolated cabin. Men were killed swiftly by gunshot or strangulation. Children seen as burdens met the same fate immediately. Women endured prolonged agony, bound, raped, tortured with tools like vices and knives, all while the pair filmed it. Ian's chilling words on video. "You can cry and stuff like the rest of them, but it won't do any good. We are pretty cold-hearted, so to speak." Bodies were dismembered, burned in an incinerator, or buried in shallow graves. Over 40 pounds of bone fragments were later found scattered across the property. Among the horrors, children suffered unimaginably. The Dubs family, Harvey, 30, Deborah, 33, and their 1-year-old son, Sean, disappeared on July 25, 1984, after responding to a camera ad placed by Lake. Harvey was likely shot on arrival, baby Sean strangled or suffocated as collateral. Deborah was held in the bunker, videotaped being severely assaulted, while Ian cut off her clothes with a knife. She was raped repeatedly before her murder. Similarly, in April 1985, the Bond family, Lonnie Sr. 27, Brenda O'Connor 20, and toddler Lonnie Jr. 1, vanished along with friend Robin Scott Stapley, 26, after Lonnie sought work at the ranch. The 2 men were executed. Little Lonnie Jr. killed to silence him. Brenda tortured on video, pleading as the pair mocked her. These infants were among 2 baby boys Ian was convicted of murdering. Their tiny remains mixed in the boneyard. Other victims included Michael Carroll, 22, Kathleen Allen, 18, Paul Cosner, 39, whose car had bullet holes, Clifford Parento, 23, Jeffrey Gerald, 25, and more recently identified in 2025, Reginald Reggie Frisbee, 29, and Brenda O'Connor via genetic genealogy. Lesser-known details paint an even grimmer picture. They once broke a bench vise during torture and shoplifted a replacement, a petty crime that unraveled everything. Lake's journals found via a hand-drawn treasure map in buried buckets chronicled the acts in grotesque detail, while Ian in jail drew cartoons of the murders with insider knowledge only a killer would have. In a bizarre twist, the Calaveras Cold Case Task Force continues identifying victims in 2025, reminding us the full toll may never be known. The end came on June 2nd, 1985 in South San Francisco. Ian was caught shoplifting that vice. He fled, but Lake was stopped in Costner's blood-stained car using Stapley's ID. During interrogation, Lake swallowed hidden cyanide pills, dying 4 days later after scribbling a note with their real names and a message to the Balaws. The Wilseyville raid uncovered the bunker, videos, journals, and remains. 12 bodies and heaps of bones. Ian escaped to Canada, where he was arrested for shoplifting and shooting a security guard in the hand. Extradition took 6 years due to Canada's anti-death penalty stance, costing millions. Tried in 1988, Ian was convicted in 1999 of 11 murders, 6 men, 3 women, 2 infants, and sentenced to death. Despite claiming he was just an observer, dominated by Lake, he remains on death row at California Medical Facility. His appeals upheld as recently as 2022, with the trial costing over $20 million. Lake and Ian's story is a descent into human depravity where survivalist dreams masked a lust for power over life and death. Their victims, families torn apart, children silenced forever, remind us of evil's quiet breeding grounds. In the end, one died by his own hand, the other lingers in a cell, but the scars on Calaveras County endure.